Good evening, everyone. This coming Wednesday night and Thursday is the 26th Yarzeit of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. As I sent an email yesterday, I'm going to be in the Oyhel in Queens praying. So if you want me to pray on your behalf as well, if you can't get there, then please send in, prayer requests, pan and everything else you need. So tonight I want to connect this with the parsha, obviously, but let's start off with the story of the Rebbe. Okay, this is a very powerful story, beautiful, beautiful story of the Rebbe. I'm going to share a couple of stories and connect them with the parsha. So this story is about an individual called Feivel Shapiro. He's a member of the community in Belgium, in Antwerp. And at the age of approximately 12 years old, he lost his mother. He had a very rough childhood. His mother, he had, I think, 11 or 12 siblings. And it was very hard for him. His mother died at a very young age, about 38, 30, and she had 12 children, and he was the youngest of the entire family. Anyway, life passes, and about 25 years later, so he's now 37 more or less, he finds himself in business in New York City. And it's a hot summer night. And somehow or another, he ends up in 770 Eastern Parkway, Chabad headquarters, davening Ma'ariv. And after Ma'ariv, he looks at a commotion. The Rebbe was accepting people for a private audience for Yechidus. He didn't have an appointment, but he felt, he's a guy who, because he grew up as an orphan and he had to fend for himself. So he pushes to the front of the line and tells the guy in front of the line, I need to see the Rebbe urgently in front of you. And the guy's like, okay, what should I do? So he, as the door opens and the guy who's there comes out, Feivel Shapiro runs inside, and the secretary, Rabbi Grona, tries to go inside and then push him out. We're like, what a chutzpah. And the Rebbe says, leave him alone. So he comes down. And normally when you go to the Rebbe, you prepare in advance, you write a letter. There's a lot of preparation going in advance, asking the Rebbe what you need. And here he doesn't know what to say because he didn't really prepare anything. So he doesn't know what to say. Anyways, he goes inside and he's sitting opposite the Rebbe. And the Rebbe looks at him. And the Rebbe goes over to his desk, opens a drawer, and takes out a letter and starts to read. And the letter is written from a mother. Turns out that this mother is writing the following. She says, I'm terminally ill. And I know I'm going to die. She says, I'm not concerned about myself, but she says, dear Rebbe, I'm asking you to arouse Rachamei Shamayim, heavenly mercy, on behalf of my children. All I care about is my children. When I pass away, she goes on with a passionate plea that the Rebbe pray on her behalf, that God should protect and bless her kinderlach. It's the only thing she fears more than anything. She doesn't care about herself. She doesn't care about herself dying. She doesn't care about the pain she's going through, but she cares that her little children won't have her to fight for them. They won't have a mother in the world. And as the Rebbe is reading the letter, it turns out that this letter was written by Feivel's mother. And he never even knew about this letter. He never heard about this letter in his life. And he was shocked and overwhelmed. The Rebbe had never met him before, never seen him. He was just a child when his mother passed away. His memories of his childhood were fuzzy. So he didn't even know about such a letter. And 25 years later, her love and concern are still alive in the Rebbe's room. So Feivel is crying at this time. And he says to the Rebbe, I have no letters of my mother. Would you allow me to have this letter? The Rebbe refused. And he's like, what? It's my mother. What do you mean? Give me the letter. So the Rebbe says like this, and this is what it means, the Rebbe. This is what the Lubavitcher Rebbe is. He says, every single year, on the night of Yom Kippur, before I go out to Kol Nidrei, I take this letter out of this drawer and I read your mother's letter. And with this letter, now I can go into Yom Kippur. This is a very, very, very powerful letter. But this is what a Rebbe is. This is what it's all about. And before I continue with a couple more stories of the Rebbe, I want to connect it. You see, this week's Parsha, we talk about Korach. Korach was a cousin of Moses. Korach led an open mutiny, an open rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. It says Madua titnasu al kal Hashem ki kol haida kulam kedushim. The whole congregation, everybody's holy. Like, why do we need you? It says, Vayishma Moshe vayipol al panav. Moses heard and he fell on his face. Says the Medrash, says the Gemara, Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph. It says, why did Moses fall on his face? He didn't fall on his face by the golden calf. He didn't fall on his face by all the other sins that the Jewish did, including the spies that we read last week. Yeah, he fell on his face. So it says, the Talmud says that the Korach and the Jews accused Moses of having a marital affair. And it says that every single Jew, like what did Kinui, warned his wife from Moses. And Moses heard and he fell on his face. Like, what? What is going on over here? What on earth is going on? What does the Talmud mean? Moses committing adultery? And the Jews would actually believe it? Moses, the holiest prophet, the holiest person? What on earth is going on over here? How would anybody take these rumors seriously? So one of the greatest scholars, the Maharal of Prague, said, Korach was a very, very intelligent person. Korach was what he was saying was, he said, why do we need a Rebbe? Why do we need a leader? You are causing us to sleep with a married woman. You see, everybody has a relationship to God. Everybody's married to God. So why do we need you in between my relationship with God? I am married, so I'm the wife. God is my husband. So now with you kind of sleeping with my husband. Why do I need you involved over here? That was Korach's question. Very powerful question. He says, why do we need it? In fact, Shmuel the prophet warned the Jews. He says, when you have a leader, he didn't want them to have a king. He didn't want them to do that. So why on earth do we actually have a Rebbe? Why on earth do we actually have a leader? And the answer is because what is a leader? A leader is not somebody who's seeking power. A leader is not somebody who's seeking this job. Moses tried to shy away from the job. He didn't want it. A true leader, his greatest quality is his humility. You see, a true leader is a connector between me and God. Vayaminu b'Hashem uveMoshe avdo. They believed in God and in Moses, his servant. A true leader is somebody who connects us, pushes us like up on a mountain. He's pushing us to connect with our dear Father in heaven. A true leader doesn't stand in the way. A true leader is totally and utterly subservient to God. After King Solomon, Shlomo Melech ruled, his son Rechavam was chosen to be the leader. So his son Rechavam asked, the Jews said, the taxes that your father imposes too much. Anyways, Rechavam asked his father's advisors what to do, and his father's advisor told him a true king is a servant of the people. A true king is subservient to the people. And then Rechavam asked his other young fellows for advice, and they told him to tax the Jewish people even more and show them your power. When he did that, the kingdom of Israel was split into two. Rechavam took half, and Yeravam ben Nevat took the 10 tribes, that's how the kingdom split up. But a true leader is somebody who's totally and utterly subservient to God and brings the best of you to connect you to God. So I want to just share 1 or 2 or 3 more stories of the Rebbe, which shows and shows that this is the Rebbe's approach and shows the idea behind a leader. So this story happened in 1966. It was the winter of 1966. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, and the phone rings in the Rebbe's office. The secretary, Rabbi Chanukov, was there. And on the line is a lady from Canada calling and saying that her little baby just fell and was hurt very, very badly. And the doctors are arguing about what procedure to follow because of the critical situation of the baby. And she's calling the Rebbe's office. She needs a blessing now. Now the Rebbe had gone about 9, 10 o'clock at night to retire to his house. And the secretaries in general didn't want to disturb the Rebbe. The Rebbe worked so hard, they didn't want to disturb him. And so he told the secretary, the Rebbe will be back in the morning, I'll tell him. So she said, it's a matter of life and death, please, please, please. And she's pleading with the Rebbe. So the secretary decided, he's going to dial the Rebbe's house. He's like, let her ring once or twice, and whoever answers the phone, he's going to beg for forgiveness. So he called the Rebbe's house, and Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka answered at 3:30 in the morning. And the Rebbetzin said, the Rebbe's wife, they said, who's speaking? Veret, who's speaking? So the secretary introduced himself and he started saying right away, I'm so sorry for calling at such a late hour. I know it's a big chutzpah, but there's a baby's desperate need. It's a matter of life and death, and we need the Rebbe's blessing. And the Rebbetzin responded. She said, why are you asking for forgiveness? My soul and my husband's soul were sent to this world to serve God's people, the Jewish nation, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. By you calling us, you are helping us fulfill our mission in the world. And obviously, he went on to report about the story of the child, and the child received the blessing. But that is a Rebbe. A Rebbe, a leader, a true leader, is a servant of the people. The Rebbe did everything. He loved every single Jew, no matter who, no matter what. One time, Rabbi Yosef Weinberg, he enjoyed a very close relationship with the Rebbe for many, many, many years. Anyway, he used to give a Tanya class on Saturday nights on the radio in New York. Anyway, one time, he had a very, very urgent matter to convey to the Rebbe, and it was late at night. The secretaries were already gone for the night, but he noticed that the light in the Rebbe's room was still on. So he did something that he wouldn't dare do. He wrote a letter, and he slipped it like under the door. And several minutes later, he realized that he's making the Rebbe bend down to pick up the letter. And he's like, oh my God, how did I do such a thing? How would I cause the Rebbe to pick up the letter from the floor? So the next occasion when he had a private audience with the Rebbe, he said to the Rebbe, I'm so sorry. I deeply regret what I did, and I hope the Rebbe can forgive me for causing the Rebbe to bend down to pick up the letter. And when he finished speaking, the Rebbe looked him straight in the eye and he said to him, it is my job to bend down in order to help another Jew. See, that is the job, that is the role of a Rebbe. I'm going to finish off with one last story. The prime minister, late prime minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, he visited the Rebbe many, many times before he became prime minister. And one time, the private audience, he was in New York and he was on his way to Israel, and the Rebbe said, can I ask you a favor? So Prime Minister Begin said, of course, definitely. And Begin, even before he became prime minister, he was a very popular guy and very powerful person. So he assumed the Rebbe would ask him for a favor on behalf of Chabad institutions, communities in Israel. The Rebbe had many requests probably, but the Rebbe had something else in mind. The Rebbe said he received a letter from a mother and a father of a Jewish girl in France. And they described how the child wants to marry a non-Jewish man. And they wrote in the letter that they tried everything in their power to convince their daughter not to, but nothing helped. So they asked the Rebbe what to do. So the Rebbe says to Menachem Begin, I think somebody with your power, with your standing, you should travel to France. On your way to Israel, make a detour, travel to France, and speak to her about the importance of marrying a Jew. And then the Rebbe said, especially you speak French, Menachem Begin spoke French, it will have a great effect on the girl. So he asked him to make a detour for one Jewish child. So Menachem Begin accepted the mission. The Rebbe gave him the girl's address, phone number in France. And the Rebbe said he'll pay for all the expenses involved, traveling there, everything, rerouting your ticket, everything. So he traveled to France, he met with a girl, he spoke from his heart. The Talmud says, Dvarim hayotzim min halev. If you speak from the heart, nichnasim el halev, they enter the heart. So he spoke from the depths of his heart, and why it's important to marry a Jew. And in the end, she listened to Menachem Begin, she broke it off. And today she lives in Jerusalem with a beautiful, beautiful Jewish family. So this is just a couple of stories to prepare us for the 26th Yarzeit of the Rebbe. But this is the question that Korach had in this week's parsha. Why do we need a Rebbe? And the answer was, we need a Rebbe because a true leader is not somebody who stands in between you and God. A true leader is somebody who connects you with God. I'm going to be Thursday morning, God willing, I'll be in the oil about 8, 9 a.m. If anybody wants to come with me, please do so. I highly recommend. If you can't get there yourself, I'll be happy to take your requests. Send me your name, your mother's name, your request. Email to me before Wednesday at 1 p.m. and I'll be happy to be your shaliach to pray at the Rebbe's oil. That's it. Hope you all enjoyed. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free. Ask away. Let me know. Talk to me. I'm always here for you guys. I'm going to unmute everybody if anybody has any questions. Hi, Esther. Thank you for joining us tonight. Sydney's here, Sean, Matthew, Jordan, iPhone, Sarah, John. Shikoyach, everyone. Okay. I'm gonna end off here. Have a good night, everyone. Laila Tov. Toda Rabah.